Hey everybody, I'm Ethan and this is Kat, and thanks for tuning in to Live with Ethan and Kat. This evening we're going to be talking about summertime safety with your dog. We've got Bex with us. He's getting a closer look at the camera there. Sit up a little bit, buddy. But to start off with, we want to answer a question that we got last week. Remember, any comments or questions during this episode is going to enter you to win something every week. This week we've got collapsible water dishes, good for travel and helping to keep your dogs hydrated. At the end of the episode, we will go ahead and draw for that. So remember, comments and questions, we love them. Now, to start off with, summertime safety with your dog. We have a couple different points to keep in mind, one of which is water related. That brings us right to the question from last week, which is, how do you properly introduce, or what's the best way to properly introduce your dog to water, or puppies to water? A couple things that we like to keep in mind with that are making the introduction enjoyable for your dog. It's important that it's going to be warmer outside, the water is warmer, and we need to be pack leaders. We are what our dogs look to, and it's going to be very beneficial to get in the water with your puppy and make sure it's enjoyable. There's no will you sink or will you swim kind of situation. No throwing puppies in the water and hoping they make it. Walk out in the puppy, get in the water with your puppy. And it's going to make that introduction a lot easier. Then make it fun. Play retrieves, bring other dogs, anything that can show the puppy that the water is a good thing and the water is fun.
A couple things that I would like to add to water introductions is an easy way for a puppy to get used to the water too and getting in the water is if you can find a pond or a lake or something that has a gradual incline into the water so that it's not just a sudden drop off and startles the puppy, because a lot of times, you know, your puppy charges into the water and dunks themselves. Well, they went in the water once, but now they're going to be a little more hesitant about going in the second or the third time because they just got, you know, a nose full of water. So if you can keep it a little bit sedate for them to walk into the water and get used to that first, and then start doing, you know, some fun, you know, dock launches and retrieves and things like that. Once your puppy's confident about the water, they're not going to get hesitant and be startled about things like that.
As they get more comfortable, definitely playing games. Now, one thing that ties right into playing those games is as we get our dogs older, like Vex here, he gets really comfortable, loves to play fetch out of the water. But one thing that a lot of people overlook is during the summer, that water temperature can get in the mid to upper 70s, even approach 80 sometimes degrees. Now, just because it's water doesn't mean that it's actually going to help them to stay cool. Dogs can overheat making long retrieves and stuff in the water just the same because that temperature is 75 to 80 degrees. So keep in mind that we have to pay attention to the temperature of the water just as much as we do to air temperature. Now, one last thing with water is that a lot of people see dogs get warm or hot during the summer and they think my dog needs to drink water. Well, drinking water is definitely important, but if you get a dog that's hot, water on their coat is going to be a lot better than water in their belly. Take cool water and put water on their ears, and yeah, their ears, big ears. There's lots of veins, blood vessels that run through the ears, so getting the ears wet, their core wet, and making sure to keep them in a shaded area is going to really help them to cool down faster. Again, water better on their coat, on their ears, on their head, than them just drinking gallons of water. That'll be the fastest way if you get a dog that starts to get a little too warm to help them cool down.
It's like artificially sweating. He's blocking me. Artificially sweating for your dog because they don't sweat, so we're trying to help them sweat and cool off so that the air, when it goes across those wet ears and their wet bellies, helps cool them down a little bit.
Exactly.
So another thing that we wanted to talk about, especially with the 4th of July coming up, is fireworks. There are Couple of things that you need to keep in mind with fireworks. Some dogs don't really care or seem to be startled or upset by fireworks. And then there are some dogs with some sensitivity to fireworks. So you need to kind of read your dog and know what they are going to behave like around the fireworks. And then to keep in mind too, with your puppy, to make sure that you're introducing it properly. Make sure that they're comfortable, that they could go in their crate where they feel confident and safe to get away from it. You can use some background noise like the TV or the radio on. And those are things to keep in mind too if you have a dog with sensitivity to fireworks, is to put them in those situations where they can go and feel safe. We don't want to be coddling and overly comforting to our dog if they are upset by the fireworks. We don't want to be like, it's okay, Vex, don't worry, it's a good thing, don't worry, because he's just going to feed off of that and think that there is something to worry about. These fireworks are scary and it's a bad thing because mom and dad are comforting me and they're worried about it too. So we kind of ignore the situation a little bit, make it into not a big deal so that the dogs don't think there is something to get upset and anxious about.
Yeah, that's a really big thing, is if the dog is having anxiety or feeling uncomfortable with the noise, petting them and telling them that it's okay just says what you're feeling and what's going on right now is okay. And that's not the case. Being scared of the noise and being scared of it is not something that we want to draw attention to. So keep in mind with fireworks that, keep your puppies away from it and even your adult dogs, because there's nothing to associate with. It's not gunfire. It's not hunting. It's just loud noises that the dogs have no idea why.
In the dark, usually, and it can be very startling and unsettling for them. So not having them out there where you're lighting off a bunch of firecrackers and fireworks, or out at a big fireworks show where they're going to have really loud artillery and things like that. Even a dog with no gun sensitivity could develop gun sensitivity or things like that by being around fireworks improperly. Exactly. We did have a question here that kind of relates back to the water a little bit about temperatures. Rick Gregory said, what are the highest temps you will attempt to work your dogs in? It's 96 with 90% humidity in Kentucky, no work. We run into that a little bit too in the summer. It gets pretty hot here pretty quick. We really start early. We're in the field basically 30 minutes before sunrise, so we can utilize that early morning cool temps, and then we try and be out of the field by 9:30, 10 when it's this warm. We keep the dogs cooled down, watered down, putting water on their ears and their coats, but we can't hunt them very long. We got to keep the training sessions really short.
Yeah, and each dog is going to be a little different, but it's important to read your dog. Now, 96 degrees with 90% humidity, it's going to be too hot for me to work out, let alone a dog with a fur coat on. Now, I know that makes it tougher sometimes in the summer, but treadmills in the AC are a great way to get a little extra exercise in this hot temperature. Other than that, read your dog specifically. Is the dog panting? When they get really, really hot, they're trying to cool themselves down because, again, we mentioned dogs don't sweat, so they pant to try and cool their bodies down. If your dog is panting and can't really control it, breathing really heavy, things like that are going to say, man, it's too hot, we need to get this dog cooled down. That brings us right back to wet down those ears, wet down that core temperature in the body, and help them cool down as quickly as we can, because by that point in time, they're probably overheated.
We had a question from Tyler. He asked, what are the signs that your dog is overheating? I wanted to pull up a couple things just because we mentioned the panting, excessive drooling, reddening of their gums, so you can actually check their gums, and we want a nice healthy pink. And if they're getting really red, that's beet red. We want to make sure that we're getting them cooled down very quickly. And then if your dog's out and been hot all day and then they're not peeing much, just like in people, that's a sign of dehydration as well. So we definitely want to get them some fluids. If it's pretty severe, take them to the vet. We're not vets, so if you're ever concerned and you think, something might not be right, go to the vet.
Don't call us, go to your vet.
Yeah, go to your vet.
So, but good questions. Now, The last thing that kind of ties right into that heat again, what's too hot, what's not too hot. I know there's been a lot of publicity. People that are on Facebook have probably seen some of these ads, but it's something that's very important, and it still is overlooked on occasion. Vehicles. Vehicles are crazy, and they kill quite a few dogs during the summer.
And children, unfortunately, it's kind of crazy.
You need to understand that the vehicle itself, inside the vehicle with the windows up and everything else, it's going to be way hotter, and it does not take very long. Even if you're running into the store for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the vehicle's going to get hot fast. Kat, I think, actually has some statistics on how fast it can get.
And something to keep in mind, too, you think, oh, I'm just going to run in for a few minutes and I'm going to crack the windows. Those windows cracked this much is not going to do anything for your dog. If you think that you're going to run into the store for a few minutes, leave the vehicle running. Yeah. Yep. Waste the gas. It's not a waste to keep your dog alive.
Burn $1.50 worth of fuel to keep the vehicle cool.
So a couple statistics. So you think, I'm going to just run in for 10 minutes. Well, the temperature in your car can actually raise 20 degrees in only 10 minutes. It can actually raise 30 degrees in 20 minutes and 40 degrees in an hour. So even when it's a cool day and you think, hey, it's not so bad out, it's only 70 degrees, not a big deal. You think about it, if you leave your dog in there for an hour, it's going to be 110 degrees in there. That can easily kill a dog. Yeah. So just a few minutes, we don't like to hear that. Leaving the windows cracked isn't going to do enough. Definitely, we always leave the car running if we've got a dog in there. We lock the doors and leave the car running, have a second set of keys with you if you have one of those locks on the outside. But definitely want to keep your dog in mind and not forget about them in the back seat or something. Because
we all know how it happens. You go into the grocery store, you're just picking up one thing, then you see something else, and that reminds you of something else.
Or somebody stops to talk to you, and
then
you get tied up.
The lines are long, and it takes longer than what you expect. It usually does. So let's keep our little fur buddies in mind when you're traveling or just driving around town. So.
We wanted to keep this video a little bit shorter. Our first live video was close to an hour long, and we thought that got a little lengthy. So we're trying to keep this one under 15 minutes, and right now we're at 7 minutes or 12 minutes. If nobody has any other questions for us, we will probably draw names between Rick and Tyler for our water bowls. And again, we're taking suggestions for future topics to go over. I don't think we've picked one yet for next week, so make sure that you get your topics in so that we can go over them and have time to kind of plan something out. Rick.
Awesome.
We just need to, did you leave that card in your hat? Oh, did we get one more message? Obedience training. Okay, we'll keep that in mind for topics in the future. So, Rick, I will message you, but message me to give me your information so I can get those sent out to you. But if there's no other questions, we're going to sign off since Vex is kind of ready to get going. And
he's signed off already.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.